Hi, Michael. Nice to meet you. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Why not?
This will be about 6 questions. So
Yes, no problem.
okay. Hello, fellow viewers on YouTube. We are here at the Kosovo Specialist Chamber. First of all, thank you. I'm glad to be here and have this opportunity to talk to you. And first off, can you introduce yourself and tell the people who you are?
Since I have the microphone, I guess I'll start. My name is Michael Doyle. I'm one of the spokespersons here at the Specialist Chambers and the outreach coordinator. That means dealing with communicating with public, particularly in Kosovo, about the cases before this court.
Hi, my name is Emma Skean. I am a Media and Outreach Assistant at the Kosovo Specialist Chambers.
Okay, nice. Could you first provide us some information about the KSC and explain of what significance it is to have a special chamber for special situations and conflicts?
Sure. Yeah. So the Kosovo Specialist Chambers is a criminal court located in The Hague and dealing with a specific set of limited crimes, alleged crimes, war crimes and crimes against humanity, allegedly committed in Kosovo during and shortly after the conflict. You asked a question about the sort of this type of tribunal. Often such tribunals or courts are established to fill in a gap in the existing justice system. In this case, there was a human rights report conducted about alleged crimes in Kosovo that was then followed up with an EU investigation. And when the time came to then deal with these alleged crimes, there was the International Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia in The Hague, but its mandate was finishing, so it couldn't deal with these cases. And for security issues, Kosovo and the EU also agreed that these cases shouldn't be tried in Kosovo, but rather outside of Kosovo, mostly to protect witnesses and victims.
Yeah. So when working in this field, when also working with those war crimes and horrific things some leaders or states do some of those cases or did some of those cases ever touch you personally or had an effect on you?
Well, of course, as human beings, when we read about these cases and the allegations, of course, it touches us to hear the stories of the victims or the crimes that are alleged in the indictments. It's also always very important for us as a court, though, to have some distance and remember that the main role of the judges is to assess the evidence and apply the law. So they really have the task before them of objectively examining the evidence and the arguments to decide whether or not certain people have been proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt or rather are innocent.
I see. So you like the KSC and the ICC, they base their judgment on some laws, the human rights. And my question is, did these laws ever got changed since the Rome Statute was established, or do you think in the future it could be possible that there would be some improvement in some way?
I think first it's important to clarify that the Rome Statute, the KSC, doesn't operate on the basis of the Rome Statute. It's separate from the ICC, and it has its basis in a specific international agreement between Kosovo and the EU. When it comes to the international human rights law that's being applied at the KSC by the judges, that's a body of law that constantly evolves on the basis of human rights practice and the jurisprudence of the different courts that deal with these kinds of crimes.
Okay, I see. So also like we have a lot of states that have a conflict with each other, and is it possible that experts found some common reason between them why things like those horrific crimes can happen? Is there some thing they have all in common, like the states that have trouble with those human right violations?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to speculate on that. You know, every case and every conflict is is a bit different. Yeah, in the case of the specialist chambers, the judges here are really focused on looking at the evidence for these cases to see, legally speaking, you know, yeah, how they should be decided.
Yes. It's really important, especially for a court, that the witnesses are talking the truth, and that the evidence is, yeah, truthfully, like we talked about, that some evidence could be faked or is not legitimate. So my question is, what criteria does evidence or witnesses have to serve to be legitimate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the judges have the responsibility to decide, first of all, which witnesses which are proposed by the prosecution or the defense will be admitted to testify, and the judges also decide on which evidence to admit. And in doing so, they look at, first of all, is the evidence relevant to the case? Does it have probative value, which is very kind of legalistic way of saying, is it relevant, and is it not duplicating evidence that's already before the court? Can it serve the interests of justice to move the case forward? And then finally, they have to assess the authenticity of the evidence. You mentioned the question about fake evidence. This is very much part of the role of the judges as well, to assess, is the evidence credible and is it authentic? And the role of cross-examination has a huge role to play here. So the witnesses come to court, and even if their identity is protected from the public, the person who is accused and their lawyers have a chance to ask questions, to say something about the credibility of the witness if they think that there are credibility issues. And there are rules, for example, that no one can be judged guilty on the basis of someone's evidence if they didn't have a chance to cross-examine that witness. So it's a complicated process, but the rules give the judges the power and the means to assess what's credible and what's relevant.
I see. Interesting. So my last question would be, for the future, to what extent do tribunals such as yours prevent future crimes? For example, for successors of leaders who get sentenced to imprisonment.
Yeah, I think that's really a broader question. That's not so much for our court to deal with. The judges really have a duty to have a much more focused job, which is basically, you know, really to look at the evidence and apply the law without thinking. You know, of course, we realize that the court doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's very important that the decisions of the court are communicated to the public. And then it's for civil society or human rights activists or politicians or whoever to advance reconciliation and peace in the future. But it's very important, I think, that the court understands its role, which is really to just look at the evidence and the law and come to a correct decision on that basis.
Okay, so thank you very much for that interview. I was glad to be here, and yeah,
Thank you.
thank you very much.